The UK state pension is facing significant long-term sustainability issue. I want to describe it more as a crisis, and it's really important for you to understand what is happening, why it's happening, and things that might happen in the future. And whilst I don't have a crystal ball, and whilst there's probably nothing we can do at the moment, one of the things you might want to consider is making more contributions into your private workplace pensions. There's a few key drivers that's causing the state pension to become unsustainable. And they're not necessarily bad things. The first one is that life expectancy is increasing in the UK, which is great, no problem with that. We have an aging population, again, no problem with that. And then we have something called the triple lock, which is there to help increase the value of the state pension by the highest of earnings, inflation itself, or at least 2.5%. So the purchasing power of the state pension is not eroded year on year. That's not a bad thing. The problem we have is that because of those factors, more people are taking from the state pension. And like yourself, like me, I've paid national insurance for years. Well, I paid it for way over a decade at this point, and some of you, I'm sure you paid it for multiple decades. So it feels like an entitlement. You deserve the state pension. Unfortunately, in the UK, and since 1992, I think it was the Tories that have classed it as a benefit. And I got a lot of stick, a lot of hate for calling the state pension a benefit. And the fact that it may start getting taxed because it's going above the personal allowance threshold, which is also frozen until like 2031, is incredibly annoying. And whilst the current Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has stated that you won't pay tax, the trivial tax, on the amount of your state pension above the personal threshold, it's still concerning that the personal threshold isn't going up and the state pension is going above that. The triple lock is a good thing, but it does mean that the state pension is going to increase in cost significantly every single year. At the moment, it's costing £148 billion a year. And it's the second biggest expense fiscally after the NHS. There's projected consequences and reforms I want to mention that may happen or may not happen. And without reform, the tax burden on the state pension is going to increase. What this means is the government are going to have to raise taxes from other sources or just increase the tax rates themselves like they have done, even though they promised not to with the current government. The other thing is that the state pension age is looking to continue to increase. It's going to 68 in the next couple of years, and it's under constant review, which means that it may go to 71 or even 74 is one of the things that was put forward in just a few years ago. The other thing here is that there is a potential for the state pension to be means tested. What this means is that to reduce the tax burden, if you have assets that the government deems significant, meaning you can afford to survive on your own without the backing of the state pension, then you should do so. I think that's incredibly unfair because you've worked for decades, you paid national insurance, and I know mentally we feel like we're building this big pot of money because we pay national insurance. That's not the fact. The current workers, me and potentially you that pay national insurance at the moment, it's just paid out to those that are in retirement or in the receipt of state pension specifically. I like that system. I think that's a very nice way of looking at it because the previous generations have built the beautiful things, the buildings, the railroads, everything we have around us. And I think it's our job to continue to look after them because they help build the infrastructure. And again, as we're building our future and hopefully making positive changes in the world, when we get older, the younger generation should be paying for us. I really like the idea of that. But it does mean that the government are going to, at some point, and I reckon within the next 5 years by 2030, decide on some of those changes, whether it's increasing taxes, increasing the state pension, or means testing it. And depending on the government, if we have the current government, I wouldn't be surprised if it's all three of those things. But it's really important for you to understand that and make provisions on what you want to happen for yourself in case any of these changes do come into effect. So for me, I pay into my workplace pension. In fact, I do as much as I can in terms of matching, and I'm investing it appropriately. And if you do have a pension, it might be worth seeking advice to ensure your pension is working as hard as it can for you in those coming decades.